Seaton Junction, where are you? It's a very interesting bit of track, this. The train hurtles down from Waterloo, that way, and stops at Seaton Junction, disgorges thousands of holidaymakers, and then whooshes off to Plymouth. The only problem with that is, it's all history. The old branch line to Seaton was down behind the bridge there, the other side of the bridge. But if we follow the ghostly track, we may get a surprise. Up, up and away! Yes, there it is, you see, look. The old line is to come down here, cross the road, and then on down into Seaton. Now, this is where the surprise comes in. Follow me. There she is, Seaton Bay. You can see why they squeezed onto those trains at Waterloo back in the 1890s. After the seething, smoking mass of London, this must have seemed like Florida. Now then, time for a little liquid libation in the pasty. There we are. Ah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, the old railway used to go through here. Well, not through here, obviously, but over there. And you thought the obvious thing to have done was to refurbish the old steam railway, but they didn't. Oh, no, they didn't. Ah, thank you very much. Good heavens, such is progress. In 1894, I could have got a ticket from Waterloo to Seaton for exactly the same money, with change left over for a spot of What the Butler Saw, live. There's the old Seaton railway track. It was reopened in 1970 by Mr. Claude Lane. Now, what you may wonder was a man who made electrical milk floats for the Eastbourne District Council doing here? Well, you're about to find out. Aha, there she blows. And a transport of delight, in my humble opinion. Look at that, you see? Number 2. They're unsentimental folk in trams, no whimsical names for them, just number 2. Number 2 is number 2. A tram is a number 2.
Hello.
Good day. You know, this is the pace that life should be run at. Tram pace. Highly agreeable in my view. Here we are with Alan Gardner, who would prefer to be called the chief cook and bottle washer and managing director, which I find rather laudable. Anyway, now we've heard something of Claude Lane, who started it all off. What was your involvement?
Well, my involvement was as an 11-year-old schoolboy when I went past his factory and spotted a tram that he'd built. And I wanted to find out what this was all about. So, daringly, I went through the gateway and Claude himself, Mr. Lane then, grabbed me on the shoulder and said, "What the bloody hell do you want?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking at your tram, mister." And he said, "Oh, tram, what do you mean by that?" He said, "Nobody else calls it a tram. There's something special about you." So I said, "Well, I've always been interested in trains and trams." And really, that started the ball rolling.
So when did you actually join the company, so to speak?
So I joined the company when I came out of the Air Force in '57,
yeah.
And I'm still here today. But it's a long story, which will probably take us all day to tell.
Well, let's go. How many trams were going when you took over, say?
Well, we had...
What date did you take over?
What, here?
Yeah.
In 1970, we had 3 trams that we could run then. We had more, but only 3 available for service. And then over the years, we've added to the fleet and completed others and so on.
Yeah.
So we've now got 9.
Well, the nice thing about this is it's not just a tourist tram, it's not just for holiday makers, is it?
No, we run a full-time service all the year round with a concentrated service in the summer, and then in the winter time we've got the 2 single-deckers we can run.
How long is it? I mean, how much track have you got?
We've got 3 miles.
3 miles?
3 mile of track,
And
yes.
different routes? I mean,
no, it's just
the one?
The one route, yeah, with passing loops so that the trams can pass in between.
Yeah.
Right, well, Willie, I hope you've enjoyed your little visit to the Seaton Tramway, and that you'll have a drive a bit later on, I hope.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
Well, he's off to oil the trolley pole or whatever they do to trams, and if I heard correctly, I get to drive one later. They must be mad. Is this where the phrase "off their trolleys" comes from? Oh, he just got off his.
Cheerio, Alan.
Trams. They're wonderful. In their heyday, there were 20,000 of them nationwide. Here's a little bit we discovered. It was written in 1915. To ride on these cars is always an adventure. Since we're in wartime, the drivers are men unfit for active service, cripples and hunchbacks. So they have the spirit of the devil in them. D.H. Lawrence. And then he wrote, "The ride becomes a steeplechase. Hooray! We've leapt in a clear jump over the canal bridges, now for the 4-lane corner. With shriek and a trail of sparks, we're clear again." To be sure, a tram often leaps the rails, but what matter? It sits in a ditch till other trams come to haul it out. I suppose it'd be rather unfair to suggest this whole business was soured by a milk float. I mean, it's not the most thoroughbred of lines, but by heavens, it works. I shall certainly never look at a pint of gold top again in precisely the same light. Now then, where's my tram? Ooh, that looks a bit serious. Am I up to it, I wonder?
Ah, Willie. I believe that Alan's promised you a tram drive.
Brilliant. Oh, heavens.
Number 2 is just over there, so we'll go and have a look, shall we?
Right.
Okay.
Off we go into the wide blue yonder.
Right, well, first of all, Willie, we've got to turn the trolley upstairs. So, if you'd like to go upstairs and have a go at that.
Right.
We can't move before we do that. Okay, Willie, if you'd like to take the pole firmly in your hands.
Keep pole firmly in hand.
And then pull it down. And then to your left, let it come up. And then push it right round.
Pushing it right round, sir. Come around here.
And then straighten it up next to the wire.
Ha 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 ha.
Pull it down and then aim right for the middle of the trolley head. Okay, Willie, that's good. If you'd like to turn the seats over now as you're walking back.
Turning the seats over, sir. Thank you.
Right, okay.
Going well so far.
Very good, very good. Well, this is the golden handles here. Right. Basically, we've got 3 things to worry about. You've got the key there, which unlocks the power controller here. The big handle here is your accelerator, in general terms. And on the right here, we've got the handbrake, which will stop you.
Friendly brake.
That's right. Well, now you know what the controls do. Let's go.
Thank you. Hold on.
how does that feel, Willie?
Excellent. Now, the major problem I would have thought running this is a single rail, and you have all these trams, beautiful creatures going up and down all the time. I notice you have little lay-bys, but even so, how do you avoid, it hasn't happened all day, just a face-to-face confrontation, really? Because you don't have wirelesses, do you?
No, not at all.
No?
The way we do it, we run to a very strict timetable, and I know that the trams are leaving Seaton every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I also know which loop to expect them at. So, for example, I know that we're expecting a tram at the next loop, which is Tie Lane Loop. And so, if the tram doesn't show up at Tie Lane Loop, I've got to make a call via the internal phone, which is on one of the poles, and I can find out where he is and if he's going to come and meet me.
Yeah.
So it's all very simple, really.
It doesn't look simple.
Right, give it your parallel now.
Give it a bit of wet air.
Yeah, right round again.
I can take to this, you know. It's therapeutic. Perhaps they ought to prescribe it for burnt-out business executives. I think you need 4 doses daily of some tram paste. Here's your cap. Now go and turn your pole. Thank you. Next, please. Well, it suits me. It's marvelous, isn't it? Oh, hold on to your hats, everybody. For today, we are meeting Mr. David Shepherd, who is the master of all the steam railways in this area. He's actually the owner of the East Somerset Railway, or the Strawberry Line, as they call it. This, of course, is the David Shepherd who paints charging elephants, and not the Bishop of Liverpool. I just thought I'd drop that in en passant. The East Somerset Railway, splendid. Based on designs by Isambard Kingdom Brunel in 1856. Between you and me, I think this line appears to have adopted rather a modern approach to steam travel. Not at all my cup of tea, you understand, but in the interests of journalism. 1 dirty weekend, please.
How much do we charge for a single dirty weekend?
£4.75.
£4.75, sir. Thank you.
Now, what did you think I was going to do? All this dirty weekend business is the work of Andy Norman of East Somerset Railway. What are you up to, Andy?
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
What do you do on his dirty weekend? Just this?
Make engines dirty.
Yes.
Rather than make them clean all the time, we thought, well, why don't we make them dirty?
Well, who do you get to clean them up after?
Well, you were going to, of course. You make it dirty, then we run round with it all the time, and then you clean it again.
I like the old-fashioned dirty weekend. Please adjust your dress before leaving. That's better. You may find this hard to believe, but this is the last Victorian convenience in the West Country. As convenient today as it was then. It's nice to know that one has stood in the footsteps of Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Oh, the works of David Shepherd. Oh, my word, he's good. Look, see, I told you. Elephants charging. Elephants charging. I don't know how much. Oh. Oh, look at that. That's the Black Prince. I don't know why I'm doing this. I can't draw trains. I'd rather draw an elephant. No straight lines. Anyway, I thought I'd try my hand at the famous Nunney Castle engine. Now then, Let's see what we can muster with the old 2B. It's all endless bits and pieces. This could take days. I would have done 8 or 9 elephants by now, or 48 people standing up in bowler hats.
It's the young Willie Rushton.
Oh,
How
hello.
are you?
Oh, David Shepherd, how
I
nice
didn't
to
know
see
you had talent like this. That's hell's good. It's exactly like Nunny, too.
It's my first train.
Smashing. You've got all the bits where they're supposed to be. It's much easier working from life like this, believe me. But, no, that's really good. That looks
Thank you very
exactly like her. That's terrific. Because they are very specialised things to draw.
That's a good trick. Just look at her. Built in 1923, weighs in at 130 tons, 65 feet long. The driving wheels are 6 foot 8.5 inches high. She can carry 4,000 gallons of water, 6 tons of coal, and has been known to touch 100 miles an hour with the wind behind her. Oh, they don't make them like that anymore. More's the pity. She is a railway masterpiece. Let's go back to the very beginning. Let us hurtle back in history. When did you and trains first bump into each other?
Well, I think it's probably like everybody else's. My dad had a model railway, London, Midland and Scottish Railway. Yeah, you're too young to know what I'm talking about.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm a Hornby man.
No, and the loveliest thing, he took over the best bedroom in the house to build the model railway. Everybody does, you see.
Yes.
And the guys who own that house now, they probably wonder why the hell the chimney smokes. And why? Because he blasted a hole right through the chimney in the bedroom to get a better curve between Euston and the crew. And, oh, God. Anyway, that's what started it. But then I became an artist and started painting steam railways.
Yes.
But I never believed I would get involved to the extent I have. You know, when I actually owned 3 mainline steam engines.
How long? I mean, when was the first? What was the first thing you bought?
Well, it all happened. Actually, I have to say that I have to bring elephants into the conversation because,
I hope so. We always enjoy that.
well, people say, well, no, elephants got to do with it. But elephants account for the success of this railway. It's the only railway in the world, I think, that owes its success to elephants. Very, very briefly, I had a massive exhibition of wildlife paintings in New York in 1967. That was when we were chucking away our steam age at the rate of hundreds a month. Brand new steam engines going for scrap. The taxpayer was paying the bill. It was, what a waste, throwing engines away that burned British coal in this shiny new age of diesel. You see, you had to progress into diesels and all the rest of it. And I had the exhibition in New York, every painting sold in the first evening. And I'm the sort of guy who acts first and then worries myself sick afterwards. If it was the other way around.
Philosophy.
Well, it is, because you never get anything done otherwise. And coming back from America with this great success, I picked up the telephone and rang a guy up in BR who I happen to know, Stoke-on-Trent, and said, Bob, I want to buy 2 steam engines. He said, why the hell do you want to buy 2? And typically me, I said, well, 2 are more exciting than 1, or something bloody silly like that.
I imagine you bought 2 in the vague hope that they would mate.
Oh, no, I've got enough already. But as a result of that phone call, when I put the phone call down, I went into a sweat because I'd become the owner on the phone call of 2 137-ton steam engines for a knockdown price, 5,200 quid I paid for the 2 locomotives. Black prints cost 3,000 quid, scrap value, only 8 years old. And as we speak now in 96, I'll have owned very nearly 4 times our working life on BR.
Yeah.
But that, of course, was when the worry started to find a home at which we were going to set up a railway with all my volunteers, who were then buying engines as well. It was, I don't know how to describe it in sort of 67, when it was almost at the end of steam. Enthusiasts all over England were selling biros and calendars, raising 100 quid here, 2 quid there, and writing to British Rail and say, can we buy an LMS Pacific or a BR standard locomotive weighing 140 tons.
You had the line then?
No.
No, you just had the 2 trains.
No,
all right,
nothing.
Brilliant.
It's a 10-hour story. Now, if we got two minutes, I can't tell the whole thing. But we found this was the 32nd place we looked at.
Yeah.
We were, in the meantime, we were paying British Rail 20 quid a week for a siding to rent, so we could at least put our stock here. We had 8 locomotives, 6 or 7 coaches, 15 wagons, no home to go to. And the siding was out in the rain. And they said, you know, it's alongside the nice, warm, shiny diesel depot, David, but you're not to go in there with your engines. Oh, no, of course not. Well, they'd been out in the rain for about 2 days, and the shed master started crying with sadness. And he said, come on in here. Now, don't say that in public, because we're not supposed to have done it. Oh, it's a long time ago.
Yes.
We had wonderful friends in BR.
Yeah.
I don't know how they ran a railway, actually, because it was almost anarchy at the end of steam. People trying... There were more members of the public and little boys like me running around the steam sheds than there were BR people, photographing the engines in the dying days. And as an artist, I was recording something of those dying days, sketching like mad, getting something onto canvas. And that's how I became involved with the preservation business.
Yeah.
Here we are at Cranwell, 32nd place we looked at.
Yeah. At the same time, David, this must be a good deal more expensive than running the old HOOO around the bedroom as you did.
Yes, I know. I mean, most of the public who come, to have a nice day out here, which they should, they have no idea now the horrendous costs. I mean, you see, an engine the size of Black Prince is designed to run for 3 weeks continuously, day and night, hauling say, 2,000 or 1,000 tons of freight. And you wash out the boiler and start off again. She's not designed to run up 3 miles of track with 2 coaches full of happy kids at £90 a ton for coal. And it's horrendous now. But when you're on the footplate, you forget all about it, because that's what it's all about, the smell and the feel. So come and have a ride on one of our engines.
Ah! Oh, sounds good to me, David. Now, hey, listen to this. Dombey and Son, Charles Dickens. Away once more into the day, and through the day with a shrill yell of exultation. Roaring, rattling, tearing on, spurning everything with its dark breath. Sometimes pausing for a minute where a crowd of faces are, but in a minute more are not. Sometimes lapping water greedily, and before the spout at which it drinks has ceased to drip upon the ground, shrieking, roaring, rattling through the purple distance. That's magic, isn't it? Charlie Dickens was clearly a railway buff. Buff, 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 buff. This is the best bit. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I wondered if I'd step aboard for a while. Paying me to do this. I'd pay them. That's Colin and John over there. Last words from Mr. Dickens, I think. A bit more Dombey and Son. Through the hollow, on the height, by the heath, by the orchard, by the park, by the garden, over the canal, across the river, where the sheep are feeding, where the mill's going, where the barge is floating, where the dead are lying, where the factory is smoking, where the stream is running, where the village clusters, where the great cathedral rises, where the bleak moor lies, and the wild breeze smooths or ruffles it at its constant will, away with a shriek, with a roar and a rattle, and no trace to leave behind but dust and vapour.
And that was the last programme in this series.
Please visit our website for news about new productions that are on the way, and you can support my work on my Patreon page. Thank you.